Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 3 mistakes you're making as Wood Elves. If you would like more of this type of content, you have to subscribe. If you do not subscribe, YouTube will not tell you when I release this type of content. You will be bad at video games forever. First mistake I need to stop seeing is taking treekin at all. Now, I don't want to just be a hater, but it's in my blood. So, guess I'm just a hater of treekin. I am. Treekin are 900 gold apiece. Treekin do not take up a lot of space. Treekin do not supply the Wood Elves with what they need in multiplayer. In campaign, I don't care. Do whatever you want. My point is, treekin don't provide a lot of space. You usually want to layer them on top of your infantry to make your front line nearly unbreakable. That's really cool, but what happens when you take funds away from your sides? Well, all the cavalry the enemy has, and yes, this is a real Wood Elf army I constructed using all my funds. I now only had enough money for 1 cavalry to stop 6 Empire Cav, and my front line is small. It either has to stop these spearmen or it has to stop the Cav. It can't stop both. Treekin don't take up a lot of space. Infantry take up more space. So now my back line is entirely compromised. Now you could say, well, just don't bring archers. Oh, okay, we're melee rushing with Treekin. That's a serious argument we're gonna have. No, it's not gonna work. Treekin don't deal any damage. So Treekin are defender type units with a lot of defensive stats, but they actively hinder any build that tries to use them to defend, unless you're making a blob. But again, then they also have to be your damage output, because your ranged is usually a Wood Elf's damage, but they need space, and you can't create space if you go too elite and too clustered with your front line. And if you just want to put treekin off on the sides, like you see Vampire Coast do animated hulks, they're too slow. They're far too slow to get anywhere they need to be with 32 speed, and they're pretty expensive. So now this is a build I made with the same funds. I cut the 3 treekin, saving myself 2,700 gold. And I did cut an ability off of Durthu just to get like 75 more gold for this to work. But essentially, cutting 3 treekin, you can almost afford 4 Eternal Guard and 2 Glade Riders. I mean, yeah, that's about it. Because together each Eternal Guard is 950 and the Glade Riders are 550. So if you really want to be a stickler with how to make the money work, you can cut 1 Glade Rider. But even that example would lead you with 2 Cav and 4 Spears, and you'd be just fine. So we still have the same front line, but without the treekin, sure, our front line isn't crazy unbreakable and whatnot, but against most factions, you'll be just fine. And if the enemy's going a heavy armor front line that you would even need treekin, then you could just kite back with your archers and they're gonna be too slow to catch you. So your front line's still gonna hold just fine against most factions, and now we're creating a lot of space where these Empire Knights and these Knights of the Black Rose and whatever can't go wherever they want. All of a sudden our archers are kept alive a lot longer, and there's more spears to peel, and even if they get around, they have to take the time to go around your entire formation, and then your spears can rotate on the inner track, right? Because you're closer to your archers than they are, so they have to travel a lot more distance to get around your spears, so your spears can always stay between trouble. And then your Wild Hunter of Kurnos are now taking a 1v1 instead of a 3v1, while this other one is peeled away by Glade Riders and Spears. On this side, Glade Riders and Spears are just forming an unbreakable wall. And this whole time our archers are firing. Only one of them is even remotely compromised, and I just threw it on guard mode and kept firing while the Wild Hunters of Kurnos killed the Knights of the Black Rose. This is an infinitely better situation. I'm sorry, but treekin just make you too small, and it's too hard to defend what really wins you games for the Wood Elves. You're ranged. Another mistake I see with the Wood Elves is using the Sisters of the Thorn as skirmish units because they have a missile attack. So some people will just leave these guys, and I'm not trying to, if you're a Wood Elf expert and you know what these units should do, and you're like, well, of course you shouldn't do that. Yeah, I know, but I still see it all the time in multiplayer games. Do not ever leave these guys on fire at will and just shoot. And whenever anything comes near them, you run away. That is not what this unit does. This is pretty much a Wild Rider that has a range attack with its bound spells, Curse of Honor here and Shield of Thorns, but also just its friggin' melee stats. 33 melee defense is rather impressive for light cav, still 34 melee attack. Still 30 charge bonus, which isn't huge, but it's decent, and decent weapon strength. But especially with the spells, we have 2 Lyran Reavers, we have a Wild Rider, and we have a Sister of the Thorn fighting. Sister of the Thorn with the Shield of Thorns bound ability, and then Curse of Honor here bound ability. They're gonna crush these Lyran Reavers, some of the best light cav in the game. The same rate the Wild Riders will, they almost route them at the exact same time. So should you charge Sister of the Thorn into heavy cav? No, absolutely not. But if you see a light cav or a dog or a lightly armored monstrous unit or archers or something, get in there. Don't just skirmish around. Wild Riders, get rid of that Illyrian Reaver. The Sicilian Maneuver is also about to rout. -4, there it goes. You can see neither the Wild Rider or the Sister of the Thorn took much damage, so you're not like throwing a skirmish cav and sacrificing half of its HP to beat a random light cav. Like, these guys can crush light cavalry. Get them in there. The final piece of advice is, unfortunately, do not take Aerial. And if you take Aerial, do not take Orion. Though if you're not taking Orion, why are you taking Aerial? So for the Wood Elves to take Aerial, you'd need a non-caster Lord, which is already a bit of a stretch, but maybe you go with the Sisters of Twilight, maybe you go with Orion. I just want to show you something. Keeping in mind the first example of mistakes people make with Wood Elves and the Treekin, these 3 armies all cost the same amount of gold. So if you really want to go with Orion, and maybe you're like, well, I want a healer because Aerial has Apotheosis and Berry Wine, and then she has some cool abilities and stuff. Cool, bro. You could just take a Branch Wraith with Melkots and Earthblood, still heal up Orion. So you still have Orion. These Orions are the exact same. So for Aerial's cost, where I took what I see on a lot of people, Soul Stealer, Apotheosis, Berry Wine, and then some people take Dart of Doom, some people take Acorn of the Oak Ages, and then of course you want Greater Arcane Conduit. Makes her pretty darn expensive. You could just take a Branch Wraith, Melkots and Earthblood, very nice, and then 2 Dryads and a Glade Guard for the same price as 1 Aerial. Or instead of going with either of them, Orion and Aerial. Now, Orion isn't a bad character, but I'm just showing how this combo is expensive. The enemy army is what you can afford if you don't go with either of them. We could have 4 Dryads, a Glade Guard Starfire Shaft, Spellweaver of Life with Regrowth and Earthblood for that same healing you wanted, and even get the Life Bloom passive with her own Arcane Conduit. They might be like, yeah, okay, small army over here, 2 characters over there, whatever. But like, that's in addition to your main army. So your army could either be missing 4 Dryads and an Archer for a Lord slot as well, or you can get Aerial and Orion. It's just too expensive. I see this duo because people like the thematics of them. And in campaign, you can afford it. Great, that's fine, that's fine. Talking about multiplayer. People want to do the King and Queen of the Wild Hunt, but just don't. It doesn't work out. They're way too expensive. Aerial's too bad of a melee combatant to be worth it. Orion's tanky enough on his own that he doesn't need the healing from Aerial. He can get enough from a Branch Wraith with Earthblood. And if you're really obsessed with healing stuff, you can just go with a super cheap Eagle Caster that can heal anybody. Like, I don't know. This combo, it's cute. It also sucks. Please stop doing it. Subscribe, yes, yes.